Today, we are going to review yet another interesting book called Project Management, the Managerial Process, 6th edition. It is coming from my favorite author, or publication you can call it, and Migra Hills. We are going to unfold the very topic of project management today. So, the difference between the tradition method and the agile method well dwelled in chapter number 17. In chapter number 17, the author beautifully portrayed the difference between the tradition method as well as agile method. This is a chapter we are going to discuss today. And let us start with something called tradition method. In tradition method, so everything happens upfront, right? The planning happens upfront. And so you go and stick to the plan, execute the plan, and then complete the project. And then so there are many phases, right? So most problem or risk are identified, assessed before the project begins, right? You don't want any surprise in the project. Estimation are done, resources are assigned, adjustment made, ultimately a baseline schedule and budget are created, and control of the project adjustment made, and the fine tuning and all that well before that project gets started. This has all been done. That's called tradition method. So in tradition method, it has given an example of so building bridge across a river. Engineer can draw up upon a proven technology when it comes to of course constructing a bridge, and technology design principle to plan and execute the plan. Right. This is what it talks about it. In the tradition method, the uncertainty, the degree of uncertainty is very small. Right. So let me explain with this diagram. If you look at here in the tradition method, since you are going with the limited scope, or the scope, you don't have any degree of change and you don't allow to make any change, then it is quite predictable, right? So you can have that. And in that, as the scope get widened, as the technology gets varied, as the innovations or the solutions get extended, what happened? The complexity increases. When the complexity increases, of course, there is an element of uncertainty is also increases. This is the one thing about the tradition method. And on the other side, if you look at the this is the tradition method, it believes more on waterfall chart. You can see here. So all the six state, it goes through, right? You don't deviate anything, and you strictly go as per the plan. And even if there is a variation, or there is a the timeline is getting compromised, you take the concession note, you take the deviation approval, and then go ahead. So basically, six phases of waterfalls, right? The waterfalls approach to in the software development they have given. Number one, concept phase. Number two, requirement phase. Once the concept and requirement are there, what you can do, you can start doing the design phase, and then construct. You can call it pilot phase, test phase, deploy phase. Only these six steps are there. And now, very beautifully, it talks about the difference between tradition and agile. You can see here, and there are 10 parameters, and it has been beautifully portrayed the difference between these two, right? And the first tradition, design upfront, and here continuous design, still you give an element of change and degree of change to allow and all that. Fixed scope, here you go with a flexible scope. Deliverables, right? And here actually features requirement, something called Kano model also will use it. Noriki Kano is there, right? So must to have, good to have, taken for granted. That methodology also will give. And then I will come back to this point again. Freeze the design as early as possible. This is the type, this is the design, and in the beginning itself we are freezing that design as such. But here, freeze the design as late as possible, meaning you still try to take an advantage of what are the edge over you get it, what are the different features you get it, and all that, right? And then in the tradition one, low uncertainty, because you're upfront, you're planning it, and you don't want to keep anything surprise element, everything. Here, high uncertainty, and here avoid change, but here you embrace change, right? Any change is acceptable. And then low customer interaction, but here this is a very important point about Agile. Here, high customer interaction, right? So there is no, I'm coming back and tying back the previous topic which I talked about, Kano model. In Kano model, where we talked about must to have, good to have, and taken for granted, even if you take house of quality, where you interact the severity, what is the severity from the customer angle and the voice of process. You correlate and give that. Exactly the same thing in Agile method, that methodology is being used. And conventional project team, you kind of go with the people who are having that project management skill and do it. But here you keep it open, right? You train and then you take from diverse team and improve upon and all that. That's the difference between tradition versus agile. Let's talk a little bit more about agile PM, right? Project management. And fundamentally, agile PM, that is project management, is related to rolling out wave planning. Meaning here there is a sprint planning. Here we have there in the tradition method, you have a plan, like you can call it as a wave and all that. Here also we can call it as rolling wave or sprint planning project methodology. And this final project is not known in great detail. So you continuously evolve, add details, and so on and so forth, right? And typically it takes 1 to 4 weeks to have complete pictures, and still you are allowing to make any changes if at all it comes. And then furthermore, it also says that this is the agile method. Agile method welcome all 8 other types also as well. What I mean by that, for example, this here you find it like a Scrum method is being welcome, and then you have that extreme programming, that is called XP, agile modeling, lean development, RUP, rational unified process. You're unifying the standardized process, crystal clear, and dynamic systems development method. And you have one solution you're trying to apply for multiple things. Rapid product development, RPD, rapid product development. All these 8 elements are unique. Application wise, you can do it. And it should be noted that agile PM is not one set method, but a family method designed to respond to the challenges of unpredictable project. Since in agile, since you are welcoming all the scopes and you're accommodating all the changes, everything, the risk element gets higher. So therefore, what it is there, depend upon, you can pick and choose, like same like lean concept. For example, lean, we have 5S as an optional, right? If you want to 5S, you can use SART, set in order, shiny, standardization, sustain. If not, you can use, of course, you can use Muda, Mura, Muri, and all that you can use. Exactly the same thing. The agile method also, you can do the same thing. But ultimately, what is very unique point about agile? Number one, focus on customer value. Number two, to iterative and incremental delivery. We call it a sprint. And then experimental and adaptations. And you test your assumption yearly, build working on prototype to solicit the customer feedback and refine product requirement and so on. It goes as a cycle. The same thing I quoted in the previous book. There is a method in which the statistical method, you can change it, right? So in the previous book I quoted, actually in the same thing here also, you have not only go through the historical the data and historical evidences and what's your data you have in hand, but you customize based on the current method, right? So exactly the same thing, this also been agile method also is easy to remember that way also as well, right? You are allowing to make changes and all that, right? And then another one is that there is a story about headquarter Palo Alto customer, story is being given here, how they embrace agile method, project method, and how they are welcoming the changes, everything, right? And not only the Palo Alto in California is one of the premium design firm in the world. They are responsible for wide range of product innovation, including the first Apple mouse and head airflow, tennis rackets, and all that, right? And then they also supported Nokia and all that. So then includes the Pepsi Cola, 3M, and Logitech, Nike, and all that, right? So there are so many other things. They also got that excellence award for in many other category as such, right? One of the really interesting quote from that methodology given in the chief executive officer is that it doesn't matter how clever you are. It doesn't matter how clever you are. Your first idea about something is never right. Whatever the idea you get firstly, sometimes it does not come through, sometimes it does not get said, sometimes it does not get right. You don't worry about it. And so the great value of prototyping, the whole thing evolved around prototyping quickly and expensively. It is that you learn about the ideas, make it better, take advantage of lesson learned, don't repeat the same mistake, allow mistake to happen and take from that mistake and make the robust and better design. This is what the key difference between the tradition method of project management and agile method as such. I hope it is clear. And next, there are other techniques also being given that we are going to discuss in upcoming video. Please stay tuned and please have a read this book called Management Project Management, the Managerial book. There are 3 authors, and then the publication is McGraw-Hill's. Wish you have a great learning and have a nice day ahead. Thank you so much.